weary travelers back to Recorder on the Wall, where we finally got back to a book. Although I was apparently out last episode, and Jeremy had to take over. I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy, and I've lost all my power now.
I'm Katie, and at least we're not on fire.
And joining us for the first time, we have a new guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Scars.
Welcome to the show. And since you're new, we're gonna start doing this with every lesson. We can all comment. But I have to ask, what is your favorite book, or even favorite character?
Oh, Mossflower is actually my favorite book, so it's great to be able to do this.
Timely.
Yeah. It's just something about the setting of it. I really like the more medieval setting than the other books. It almost feels more real, you know. I was able to immerse myself more into the story. This is my favorite book here.
Fair enough. And I'll leave it to you two. Do you guys want to comment on your favorite books? Have we even asked that? I don't know that we have.
That's a good question.
Yeah, now I have to pick one. Darn it.
We can. You can defer to another episode if you're not ready. That's fine.
Yeah, I have no idea. I like Tagarong a lot. I just don't know if it's my favorite one.
Martin the Warrior, even though it's super sad, but that one's been my favorite.
Salamandastron is mine.
Nice.
And it's the one I have signed, actually. So.
Awesome. I think my favorite character, though, is Marielle. I really like her.
Why is that?
Whack it! She whacks birds in the face.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, she's just strong, feisty. She is a little bit reckless, and I don't know, I really like, and she seems to grow into herself a little bit.
And she's in 2 books, so, you know.
Yep.
That's uncommon in the series, actually.
Any character that smacks seagulls up the side of the head with a rope is cool by me.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's get going then. So, when we left off in the chronological order, Martin was heading south, and he promised to never talk about anything that ever happened.
Yes.
And funny thing is that this Mossflower, as it was published in 1988, was the second book published. So, it's fair to say Jakes is still finding his footing here. Because, as we will shortly see, not only does Martin not ever mention it, that whole Martin the Warrior book was probably not worked out at all in Jake's mind when he was writing this.
Also, he mentions somebody named Feldo the Wrestler to Gon. So, yeah, you know.
We'll go with that. I mean, he wrestled Badrang all over the place.
Yes.
So, and he also mentioned Tilbestow. Let's put a pin in that.
Yes.
I'm sure he'll come up. And
what
then
a
he
name.
mentions
Yes, what a name.
We mentioned 2 other characters, which we'll get to, but yeah. So when this book begins, in true Redwall fashion, we have a prologue that takes place with a very elderly matron badger, Bella, who is speaking to.
I was going to say, judging by how long she lives, maybe she's not actually that old at this point, you know?
It's fair to say she's probably middle-aged. Her son's old enough to leave home.
Yeah.
So.
But she lived a very long time.
As badgers do, and we've never really addressed the whole how long they live thing in this series yet, but a discussion for another day.
All they say is that badgers tend to live a very long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially female badgers. I've heard somewhere in the series it said especially female badgers live a very long time, and I'm not sure why that is, except for maybe the stereotypical thing that, well, females don't fight as much as males, so maybe that's why they live longer. I don't know.
Well, given its series canon that most of the male badgers end up at Salamandastron at some point, with a few noted exceptions, yeah.
Yeah, so, I think Stonepaw is the oldest male badger we see.
Yeah, maybe true, yeah.
Fair.
I think he's the only ever truly old male badger we've ever seen. Brocktree was middle-aged. Most of the other ones were young, like Sunflash. What's his name? Earthstripe and Earthwhite. They were relatively young, probably comparably in their 30s.
There was
we
Lord
watched
Ashai,
Russell grow up, so
yeah.
And then we got his kids, and then on down the line. Although from what we know here, it's Brocktree himself. We do know he lived to old age, so that will get addressed in this book anyway. So. Anyway, when the book opens, we have Bella talking to a mouse of unknown name. So,
I like these, the prologues, and I like when it's supposedly a character from the story and they don't give their names away, and so it's like at the end of the book you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. I know that happened. Not to give any spoilers or give it away, but it does happen at the end of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Belle also spoils half the book here in the prologue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Redwall has to get dealt, and we know the bad guys have to die because it kind of was already implied in Redwall itself. So.
Yep.
Well, they do state in Redwall that Martin. I think they say that Martin was. Well, anyway, we'll get there, but we already know Martin's going to win at the end, or else there wouldn't have been a Redwall, or at least it would have been Redwall ruled by a very different group of creatures.
So. But the book truly begins, and we pick up with Martin, who is traveling in winter, like an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to put this in, like, I'm sure Jakes wasn't thinking about this, but maybe traveling in winter where it's super cold and trying to stay alive maybe helps him.
I wonder where he got that idea from.
Yeah, maybe it helps him cope with the pain of the events of Martin the Warrior. I don't know. But,
or, his dad leaving in the middle of winter.
Well,
like
father, like son.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys cover Martin the Warrior already?
Yeah.
We have. Yeah,
okay.
It was the last book we touched on.
He left the
in autumn.
That area in the north in autumn, so that means that he was at least traveling one season or a full 4-season cycle.
Does it? I gathered that he basically left Polkeen's house in autumn and basically was in Mossflower by winter.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh,
either
okay.
that
or
like
a full year.
Yeah.
And he's been to many places that he can't talk about because it's never mentioned ever again.
Yes.
What happened off screen stays off screen. And I've just given every fanfic writer an entry to, hey, I'm secretly Martin's great-great-great-great-grandchild. Haven't I? Anyway, Martin has no idea where he is, and he's heading right for a certain fortress of ill repute. So.
Yeah.
Well, he's heading for something we actually don't see very often or at all in the series, which is an actual town or settlement.
No, this doesn't happen very often.
Which is one thing that I found odd in the other books, how there was literally nothing but Redwall and Salamandastron, except for one or two cases.
Besides Castle Flora in the south, yeah.
That and in the Long Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, Camp Tussock is the first time we see an established settlement outside of the two major centers of power.
Yeah, it usually feels like it's just Redwall, Salamandastron, and Wildlands in between. Like we'll see little groups of people, or maybe like the shrews on the river, but they're established to be nomads, just kind of wandering around, but no actual towns. And I think, is Camp Tussock, is that one also underground?
No.
Okay. It's been a long time since I read it.
It's an open, I think it's a fort, for lack of a better term. But it's retired Salamandastron Harris who stuck out on their own and decided to live in the Far East. So
not only is it basically all wild around Redwall and everything else, there doesn't seem to be any attempt to cultivate or do anything. Like, even in this book, Saruman mentions that they would cultivate the flatlands, but that doesn't seem to ever be done in any of the books, or at least it's not mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just my imagination, and correct me if I'm wrong, but St. Ninian's isn't mentioned in this book so far.
If I remember correctly, it's mentioned at the very end of the book.
Okay.
But we'll get there. I think. I might be remembering it wrong, but...
Yeah, I don't remember.
Admittedly, when I'm reading these things, most of the time I'm doing one of two things. One, I actually go through the section we have to cover twice, once for pleasure and once for notes. I haven't done that every time. But two, I'm deliberately holding myself back from not rushing through this entire series because I'm afraid I'm going to get burned out. So there's both things well buried in my memory from these things that I honestly have genuinely forgotten that I'm only rediscovering as we're going through.
Nice.
Yeah, when we get there in book 3, but if I remember correctly, I believe Gonf and character who doesn't get introduced till later on in this section of the book get married there. But,
or at least settle there.
Or at least settle there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting as we're covering this, because as I mentioned earlier, this was the second book published, so Jakes would have had to frame Martin the Warrior based on what happens here to a degree. We mentioned the names earlier, but yeah,
yep.
Readers would not have had any idea any of this happened. As far as readers new to the series had come before Martin the Warrior was published, this is the first time we see Martin. And I have to say, the entrance is less cool than Martin the Warrior's entrance was. I mean, when we first see Martin in his own eponymous book, he's literally staring down one of the slavers and causes him to back down. Here, he's just done traveling.
Yeah, I mean, he does shortly end up fighting a whole bunch of vermin soldiers.
You have to wonder in his head, he's like, oh god, not again.
Oh, god. Well, at least they don't bash him over the head with something heavy.
Oh, we already know he has brain damage. That's established.
I think
times he went unconscious in the last book.
Well, I think also you could, I mean, granted, this, like an in-universe example could be in this one, Bella is telling the story of how they viewed it, of Martin was someone they had no idea who he was, just wandering into Mossflower and being roped into all of this and choosing to join, whereas in Martin the Warrior, you have Brome's descendant trying to tell them of this grand story of who essentially who their savior was when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense just in context of who is telling the story, because I don't see Bella as someone who's going to embellish or exaggerate in her old age.
No, definitely not. And here's the So Martin quickly gets captured by Kotir's troops. And what is Castle Kotir, by the way? Well, about that, if a memory serves, they mention this in Redwall itself, like, oh yeah, our Jesus figure kind of defeated a wildcat. And yeah. So funny that he's found to come across the castle made of red sandstone brick. I wonder if... we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I still like the fact that he goes down fighting against these soldiers, even though in the back of his head, like we said, he's probably like, oh, crap.
Man, I was just traveling along, minding my own business, and this happens again.
I have the worst luck ever.
Yeah, Luke's sword is in much worse shape than I remember from the last book.
Yeah.
Either Batarang was terrible at taking care of it, or, yeah.
I think that might also be an indication of how far this takes place after Martin the Warrior. That, I don't know, I always got the impression that in this one he was much older than in that book. But yeah, just the fact that the sword is all rusted, which, by the way, bad form, Martin.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I always assumed it was right after the events of Martin the Warrior, but maybe it was a year or more.
Yeah,
We honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. Like I said, we don't know where Martin has been. He headed south at the end of the book, his own book, but here he's coming from the north, but we don't know what happened in between.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, so I don't know anything about the upkeep of weapons because, I mean, never had one. But, I mean, maybe Martin just kind of stopped caring after, you know, the things that happened in Martin the Warrior. And I don't know.
There could be some guilt here. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
But it also could be, we know this sword's been passed down all the way from Martin's grandparents, all the way in the back. This was not Luke's sword originally. This was his father's sword, and down the line. We don't know how old the blade is. And if these things aren't taken care of, they're going to rust.
We don't see that many blacksmiths in this series. Like, Salamandastron seems to be the big source of repairing and creating weapons.
Yeah. And it does say in Martin the Warrior that that it's a battle-scarred blade. But I don't remember it saying anything about a rusted blade.
It was definitely battle-scarred way back when we covered Luke. And definitely in Martin the Warrior, but not rusted.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of on you, Martin, unless Battering was that bad of an owner. So.
Well, he might have been. You never know.
Yeah.
So the book also opens following a hedgehog family, the Stickle family, and this is actually kind of chilling to read. Because they're living in the shadow of Castle Kotir. They're one of these farmers, and they're you can read it. They're genuinely afraid of a patrol coming by their house.
Yeah.
And what do you know? What happens? The patrol comes by their house.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny reading this now, like one of these earlier books. Jakes did a lot of development with his baby character language after this book, because in this book they just me as a word person, I'm kind of super interested in this, but like he just did regular plain English, but as the books go on he does more of the affected baby language for the baby characters.
My microphone was muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
I was going to mention something about the sword's rustedness. I believe it was mentioned that it was rusty. And if it is a polished blade, it doesn't take a whole lot of rust to notice that it is rusty, especially if it's not oiled. So, just sorry to backtrack.
No,
it's all right.
As I was speaking, I was like, oh, wait, no one's hearing me.
We're ignoring you because we're just mean like that.
Hey, be nice to the new guy. I'm Papa Abbott. I just say what I say goes. So, we're this hedgehog family. They're like, they not only do the Kotir soldiers come in, they basically rob them of their prepared food, and they're like, oh yeah, and your kids have to start working the fields in winter.
Yeah, it's dark.
I'm sure they can take it. They can't take it.
I would like to point out that not being able to adequately feed your troops seems to run in Verdaga's family.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Since we're on the subject, let's bring it up. Verdaga. Green Eyes. That name doesn't sound familiar. Oh, yes, it does. This is Ungad Trun's little brother, who is no longer little. Or young.
Yep.
Makes you wonder how old Ungad was compared to Verduga, because I believe it was mentioned in Lord Brocktree that his brother had gone looking inland for conquest. How long ago was that, and how old does that make every other character? Lord Brocktree, Boar the Fighter, etc. How old does that make everyone?
Well, I got the impression that Boar the Fighter at this point is at least late middle age, if not old.
Yeah, because it sounded like he was, I think, about like a teenager when in Lord Brocktree. The way
I
Brocktree
definitely
described.
gathered there was a significant difference in age between the two brothers. So, but we found out what Ungad's brother ended up doing. He took his own army south and
Was more successful.
Yep.
A mite, yes. Basically he found a dilapidated castle, fixed it up, and said, I'm king now. But I'm not going to call myself.
Yep.
So.
But, I mean, at least he seems to be the most rational and fair-minded villain we've had so far.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about this, because Martin is brought in, and we also get introduced to Verdaga's two children.
Yep.
And
Gingavir. That name sounds familiar.
Gingerbeer.
Gingerbeer, whatever.
I'm going to be the snob now.
When I was mapping out which character groups of heroes, neutrals, and villains, I only put Gingerbeer in the villain category because he's just part of the ruling dynasty. But he doesn't actually do any villain actions.
He doesn't do much ruling either.
No. His sister, on the other hand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I grew up with Sarmina, I don't think I'd be too much of a strong personality either.
No.
Let's talk about her in contrast to the other villains. Now, granted, this is only the first book of 3. So, we have yet to see what highs and lows she's going to get to, but just in this first book, I mean, Slagar was crazy. We all agreed on that when we covered him. And Clooney slowly lost it as things got worse for him at the very end. And
it was the stress.
And
Badrang.
And what's his face from Luke? I don't remember.
Valiant.
Thank you. Generally speaking, yeah, when they start losing, they definitely get frustrated. But only Slagar has been genuinely nuts so far.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I don't want to run a mental illness as an explanation, but Sarminia, at Seems Point, she seems, for lack of a better term, bipolar. There are times when she is genuinely, she never really has compassion for her troops. They're her playthings, we get that. But there are times she definitely treats them better than others. And then there are times that she is genuinely worse than most of the other villains we've seen so far in her Vermin HR skills.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a moment where she throws someone out a window.
Okay. Isn't there yet? No. But given that's that is literally her uncle, would you be that surprised if it did happen?
No!
Well, I mean, we do have a guy jumping out the window to try to please her, so there's that.
You don't have to throw me out the window. I'll do it myself!
You
then get cut by
You can't fire me, I quit! Oh God! Stop quitting! We'll get to him. But she does at one point, and I'm in my mind when I'm reading through these for the first time through pleasure. I started genuinely laughing because I already heard the jokes in my mind. And again, we'll cover this in better detail. But she literally uses a ferret as a shield to block a spear, and I'm like, I started laughing for that. I'm like, oh no. That may not be the direction I should have, but that was the one I did.
I believe he was already dead.
Well, was he? Okay.
I think he got stabbed by a javelin, and she used him to block arrows.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was under the impression that she grabbed him when he was alive, and then he got stabbed, and then she continued to hold him up so his dead corpse continued to absorb ammo.
Oh,
that's what I gathered.
That's possible as well. That's possible.
As our main bad guy here, she's definitely a set of a different mold than anything else we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Not only is she the first female bad guy we've covered, at least female boss bad guy, let me put it that way. There's something a little more off about her, even compared to Clooney. Clooney was just a straight-up conqueror, but she is just like, there's definitely a vein of crazy here. Right?
And she's already in power too. This is one of the.
Yeah.
This is the first of actually. Well, so we've had Badrang and now Sarmina as established. I own this. location villains so far, of the books we've read for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Angetron did own Salamandastron, sort of, for a while.
No.
It didn't go very well for him.
No, he seemed to have this, like I said, apparently not being able to feed your troops runs in the family.
Yes.
And there's a definite, I mean, again, compared to her father, there's a definite break here. Don't get me wrong. Her father is not a nice person.
No.
I'm not trying to say he's not a bad guy, because it's apparent he is. Pretty early on.
I think it's more he's not as direct as Tsarmina. Like, Tsarmina is like, obey me or I'll cut you to ribbons. And Verdaga's like, obey me, I will keep you safe. I am tough but fair. But if you turn against me... Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but it's with him, it's more of, until they actively attack him, he's not going to lash out at anyone. He's calm and calculating.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it's not saying he's not above putting down some violence when he has to. We're told there was an original rebellion when he moved in.
Yeah.
And he and his daughter put it down pretty hard, including killing Bella's husband.
Yep. And Gom's parents, apparently.
More orphans.
Yep.
Oh, God. So many orphans.
Yep.
Yeah,
As we point out in this series, if you have parents, hold on to them, because yeah.
Should we start doing like a counter of which characters' parents die mid-book or have already died before the book started?
We might need to. Yeah.
At least we don't have any orphan children in this one.
I would need a whole new hard drive for that.
So yeah, Martin is brought to the Chamber of Green Eyes, and you have to admire his spunk. He's still trying to fight the guards, and he's just like, I don't care if it was your land, I'm a traveler.
Yeah, he's very defiant.
Real great hospitality.
He's very defiant for someone who's being held at sword point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, slight break. Because I'm a nerd, I looked up the thing that we were talking about, and it says she grabbed the nearest soldier. It was a ferret. There was a swish and a thud. She felt the impact as the luckless soldier took the javelin that was intended for her.
Oh, okay.
So to me, that seems like he was living and he died.
It's like,
wouldn't
you
an
come here.
invisible shield be so much better, though?
Yeah.
You know, take what you can get. Don't worry, Your Majesty, I'll protect...
Yeah.
Graphic.
What? Anyway,
yes,
Martin's basically brought in, and he's like, oh yeah, only my soldiers can carry weapons, you're breaking the law, and law is death, or at least that's what Sarminia says, and she's like, alright, kill him. And the dad's like, wait a minute. Hey, Gingerbeer, what's your opinion?
Gingerbeer's
He actually
like,
solicits both.
let him go.
Yes.
But he escorted from our territory and given back his weapon, which is pretty fair. And Gingerbeer's Verdaga is like, okay, we're gonna I'll compromise here. He gets to cool down in our cells for a while, but we'll go ahead and release him when the time comes.
Yep.
And let me borrow the Dumbledore here from Harry Potter. Tyrants create their worst enemy. What does Sarminia do?
Snap.
Yep.
It's like, Sarmina, you...
She forgot to take her chill pills is what she did.
Yeah.
She needs, like, an entire prescription of them.
Maybe something a little stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Vermin HR is many things, but the benefits package isn't always the best, even if you're the boss.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Sarmina, I mean, in her defense, she didn't know about what happened to the last person that tried to mess with that sword.
No, she does not.
Yeah.
Because Martin takes it well.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't take it
He just glares at her and be like, your father's decision was the just one, but yours was the right one. Because I swear one day, I will kill you. And Verdaga's like, yeah, I'd watch your back if I were you.
As she slips
And,
in the poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, Dad, you need here, have a drink, Dad. Yeah.
You should always be on the lookout for those who are after your life. Here, I'll take more of those herbs now.
Yes.
Hey, is this our shipment from Salamander Store? Great!
Cool, man. That's why his eyes are green.
Oh.
The thousand eyes.
Oh.
I see the eyes everywhere. Totally should be my symbol, man.
Verdugo didn't forget to take his chill pills.
Nope.
He took Sarmina's too.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, Martin's led out of the cells, and Sarmina's, she's like, whatever, you're not gonna kill me, but, here, hang this broken sword around your neck. His neck. I'm sure that won't come back to bite me later.
Yeah.
Oh, of course not. Never, ever.
I do love, despite the fact that the sword is broken, it still has a relatively sharp edge, or, it's even though there's rust, Martin could either cut people or give them a horrible case of tetanus.
Yes.
Yeah, he could still use it as a weapon, and you've tied it around his neck.
Yeah. And he does use it as a weapon later on in the book, so it's like, all right, I get the symbolism, but,
She does fully expect him to rot in his cell, though.
Yes.
Yeah. She kind of forgets about him, actually, after, what's about to happen.
That would actually
he's tossed in the
useful.
cells. He's tossed in the cells, and then we get Goff.
I love you.
And this is the author avatar, believe it or not.
Yep.
Yep.
If we're told Constance was literally supposed to represent Jake's grandmother, Jake's himself admitted that Goff is basically himself as a kid. And he must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
At that age.
Yeah,
Goff
jack
is,
of all trades.
Oh, yeah. Jake's of all
literally.
trades.
Oh.
I get it.
Sorry.
No, I approve of that one. But yeah, Goff is just kind of awesome. He's our source from all the major songs in this book. He is the Prince of Mouse Thieves, to hear himself described. He's an orphan. But he doesn't let him slow that down at all.
Nope.
Oh.
And
Sorry,
yeah,
that was my dog, if you heard that.
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just kind of awesome. He always optimistic. I love the fact that when he's actually caught a chapter or two later by Kotir's troops, he's told outright that the cook wants to skin him alive and make him into stew, and he's like, okay, do I get a portion?
Yeah.
Save some to me.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the stand-in for, like, the typical Hare in terms of, like, goofiness and how he acts and his speech. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Basil in the first book. Just in terms of, like, the source of constant humor.
And it says he admires the otters, and he sort of reminds me of an otter, too. In, like, his playful manner.
Yeah. But, hey, Goff's here, and he's fun.
Oh, yeah.
He is a lot of fun. But before we can get to that, whoops. Someone's playing the game of Mossflower because Verdugo dies by poison.
Oh, dear. I wonder how
that
that
happen?
happened. I don't know.
Sounds like someone needs to sue Fortunata for malpractice.
Well, Fortuna is it Fortuna?
Fortunata. Fortunata is how it's pronounced in the audiobook, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I love the names in this book.
Yeah.
They're actually, yeah, why not? We'll address this. The names in this book are actually, because this is long before Jake started doing something like Floater, but, yeah, the names are actually genuinely good. They're unique, and I like it.
They're particularly short, if you notice. Most of them, especially the vermin names, are very short.
Yeah, like
Blood,
Scratch.
Frog.
Scrat, Clud.
Yeah.
Ashleg.
Ashleg. Which brings up a question for me. What is a pine marten?
It's a lot like a ferret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another British mustelid.
There's the European species and the American species. They're one of the bigger of the weasel family. So.
Okay.
Nice.
That's something I've always wondered. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, yeah. And, Fortunata, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Fortunata. She and Arsmania basically have a plot. They're going to poison Dad, and they do. And they blame it on her brother.
Yeah, I felt really
Or
bad
did you
for
hear?
him, actually.
So, yeah. Someone played the game of Mossflower, and, Dad's dead. She's queen. Ah!
Yep.
But, yeah. Again, barring... Again, I know we're kid-friendly, but barring too much from the Game of Thrones reference, yeah, this is not a little unlike Cersei Lannister here. Ambitious, but kinda dumb about it.
Well, yes.
It's not the first time we've seen poison in this series, but probably one of the few times someone's killing off a bigger boss to take over. So, we will see that come up.
Yep.
So Martin's like, well, the one guy who actually stood up for me is also in a jail cell. Well, I'm going to be here a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the one who wanted to execute me is now taking over. Well, I guess I'll get used to my new home down here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Someone pass me a Snickers. I'm going to be here a while.
Tarmina, you get crazy when you're hungry. Have a Snickers.
You're so crazy. So yeah, we also find eventually Gonk gets captured and he's thrown in the same cell with Martin.
Yep.
Best friends, yay!
Yeah, I love that. Like, he just immediately starts singing this dumb song, and Martin's like,
What?
okay.
I'd like to say, for the part where Martin tells the story of, like, where he came from, I know this was written before Martin the Warrior, and probably before that was, like we said, before they even thought of it. But I'd like to think in universe, Martin must have practiced this story countless times.
Yeah.
To get it consistent, and one, not mention everyone he said he wouldn't mention, but also not think of and maybe get like choked up thinking about Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we look at the names he gives two people we can recognize from Martin the Warrior, and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Timblisto, who he was basically the guy Luke left in charge and who Martin chafed against. Okay, and as far as Martin knows, he may be alive, but he's far enough away it's not going to be an issue, and wasn't connected to the whole Marshake incident in the first place. He knows Feldo's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other two, is it Arrowtail and what's the fourth?
I can look it up again.
Hang on, I'm going to find it. Point is, those two, I don't remember those two names at all from the previous book.
Here we go.
I don't
Thrug,
know.
Yeah.
Thrug the Strong.
Oh, that name is in Salamandastron.
Yeah, that's
right. He's an otter, but
yeah.
he's unless there's some sort of time machine going around here.
He might have also made up those names too.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that obviously Golf is basically his best friend for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spoilers. Martin lived.
Oh, what?
He as close as their friendship is implied to going to be by the time we finish this book, not a word.
Yeah.
Martin doesn't say one word about Noonvale.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Also, might think that might have influenced his reaction to Verdaga looking up and like, I know the law. You are not the law.
Yeah.
So, and Martin, who's only had bread and water at this point, basically Gonf takes out some cheese and wine and says, "Here you go." And I'm like, okay, Kotir soldiers, you have standards here, right? But yeah, you couldn't search a prisoner? I mean, I know clothing is kind of up and down in this series, how much they need of it, but There's limited places to hide. Something like that.
I'm gonna hold back a reference to something.
Yeah, I know you are, and I'm thinking of it too.
I'm not
but
saying
for the
it.
sake of argument, we'll just say he was hiding in his jacket and nothing else.
Yeah.
Get your brain out of the gutter.
It's
Thank
difficult.
you. Especially with Jeremy.
I'll keep that in mind.
So, yeah, Gump basically, yeah, so now that your food's over, let's get out of here. I don't want to stick around this cell. And this is almost a comedy routine. Just watch their escape.
Yes.
I love the sequence of them escaping. It's great.
I mean, you could literally play the Benny Hill theme over this.
I did.
And would be... Martin and Gump get out of their cell.
This animated. I need this animated.
Well, unfortunately, this was supposed to be season 4 of the cartoon. And it never got made.
Oh, man.
Oh, that just bummed me out. Okay.
I know. Back to the happy escape, because Martin and Gulf get out of the cell. They talk briefly with Gingerbeer, but don't let him out. Okay.
I don't know if I believe they didn't have time.
Yeah. Or the ability to, because they did say like his cell was. It sounded like it was completely sealed, like the door had been sealed, almost.
Oh. And yeah, she or not she. The two guys, they get out, they climb up the stairs, and oh, hi, Tasmania and Fortunata. What are you doing here?
Whoops.
Just out for a stroll.
And they just,
we'll just see ourselves out.
And they just happen to be talking about, how her father was murdered, and it's like...
Even though this was weeks after.
Actually, it was an entire season after.
Isn't it?
Yeah, by the time this picks up, it's late spring, essentially, by the time Martin and Goff get out.
Like, why are they still talking about this?
Yeah, it's like exposition, plot.
Well,
oh, wait.
What an odd thing to say, but continue.
Memes obviously didn't get old as fast back then.
Oh,
It's like, what are you, the narrator or something?
And, the two just basically, they show themselves out, literally, by jumping out a window.
Yes.
Which leads to a couple goofy moments where we get that overeager soldier like, don't worry, my queen, I will stop them. And he actually takes like a noble pose, leaps out the window, and then gets whoop by the eagle.
I just love it. It's like a fat, juicy stoat with an expression of heroic duty on his face.
And then we get a moment that just makes really no sense where Zarmina's like, Ashling, go get my bow and arrows. What is taking him so long? Really, you're wondering why the one-legged character is taking so long to get something.
Yeah.
As we see later, he ends up needing a crutch at certain points, too.
Yeah, and I don't think Kotir is ADA compliant. I just really don't think that...
No, it's not.
I would
to be fair, Redwall probably isn't either, and I'm not going to even go into Salamandastron. Yeah.
But I would like to ask, besides the obvious of converting oxygen into carbon dioxide, what does Ashleg do around here?
I don't know.
I think, wasn't he her father's advisor, and she just kind of kept him around?
I don't know. It just feels like he never does anything of use in the entire book.
Like a character like Kamina, I feel, would just as soon kill him. I think he may just be a way of venting her anger at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Clud is we're told outright, Clud is captain of the guards.
Yep.
So...
Ashleg just feels
I'm not sure on the officer hierarchy here. But, Vermin HR is going to have enough paperwork on their hands by watching one of their own get eaten by the eagle.
Maybe Ashleg is Vermin HR, and Sarmina never does anything that he suggests, so...
That's true.
You know what? I'm going to go with that.
All right.
But let's mention this eagle. Now, since Redwall was literally the last book written, we had, again... the outright bad guy and kind of a chaotic evil. Well, not chaotic evil. Neutral evil bad guy with Asmodeus. We have the same thing here, except where Clooney and Asmodeus never interacted, even if the cartoon messed that up. Not only does Argulor... how do I say this?
Argulor or something? I
I'll
don't
go with that. Argulor and Tarsmini. Not only do they interact, Argulor is a bit of a... he's more than enough sass when it comes to Tarsminia. He's just like, yeah, I may be old, honey, but
yeah.
I'm still a freaking eagle.
I especially like the part where she shoots an arrow at him, he follows it, grabs it out of midair, snaps it, and then just flies off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Argulor is this older eagle who left his mountain range to come back where basically food was more plentiful.
Which
and
mountains
by food,
do you
he
suppose?
will eat. I know
north?
it's northern mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He never talks. He's very...
Yeah.
Yeah, with him, I'd say he's a little bit different from Asmodeus, where it said that he and Verdaga kind of had, like, an understanding, like, you don't mess with me and I won't mess with you, but, like, Sarmina outright hates him, so he only seems to go after her troops. Like, it doesn't feel like he ever goes after any of the Woodlanders.
Although it's kind of implied he will if he gets the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not, hey, food is food, so... But
are we going to
we're
go
also
over?
told he
Go
wants
ahead.
Ash like hard.
Oh.
Like never. Get your mind out of the gutter.
I'm trying to. It keeps slipping.
He's never had pine marten, and he'd really like to try it before he dies. So, will he get his favorite meal? I don't know. Well, I don't know yet.
It's like caviar.
Yes, very good.
Rare.
But yeah, the two mice. Not only did they get away, they're off into the forest, and Sardinia pretty much gets chased right away.
Yeah.
Do we want to go over Corum and Barkal?
We have yet to talk about that, so please.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of characters that are used here.
I was just thinking about, because we went through the escape, but we never went about how they did escape. Because Goff ended up picking the lock with a wire and a little knife that was provided by Corum, or the what is that acronym again?
Council of Resistance in Mossflower.
Jake's really liked his acronyms.
Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Yes, he does.
Yes. He really likes acronyms. Not abbreviations, but acronyms.
How did they know which cell he was in?
I don't know.
Smoke bomb!
Yeah, pretty much.
This plot armor.
Yeah.
Yes.
They sensed that a main character was in that cell.
I'm looking it up to see if there's any. Anyway.
Was it Chib who told him where he was?
Well, they didn't employ
Or
Chib.
is Chib even in the story yet?
Yeah.
No.
No, he's not, because by the time they contact him, it's
actually Gon's idea that they contact him.
Yeah. Never mind then.
Yes.
I don't know how. Let me collect my thoughts here. They end up rescuing just one of their kind. It's just kind of silly that they would risk so much, despite their moral code, I suppose. But it doesn't seem like anyone else has ever been captured for a very long time.
And they do lose a lot of troops in the process.
The Woodlanders?
Yeah, a few of the squirrels and otters get killed.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but who cares about the vermin?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to fill that out for HR. Okay, yeah.
Hey, Ashley, what do you have to say about that? Clop, clop, clop.
Is that the sound of his wooden leg walking away?
Yes.
Yeah, just turns his back and walks
He's
away.
like, I want nothing to do with this.
I want to retire.
I'm just going to sit here in my cool velvet cloak.
I've been in this office for years. My boss is a freak.
Oh man, I miss my old boss. He and I went golfing on the flatlands. 2 seasons away from retirement? Is that what you said?
All right. So how big is Brockall, do you suppose?
It sounds
Big enough.
size to house all those woodlanders.
I don't know if it's ever explicitly stated how many are in there.
Not really, no. But here's everybody who's in Brockall. We have Bella, who's obviously the, disposed princess. That's what she is.
Yeah.
It's never given that title explicitly, but she and Barkstripe were kind of ruling Mossflower before Verdaga came around.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. And she's got all the other Woodlanders. We have the Sickle family. We have Earthclaw and his moles.
Mm-hmm.
And we're told Lady...
Amber.
What's her name?
Lady Amber.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lady Amber and Skipper. That's all the name we're given for him.
So Lady Amber is the
title.
Squirrel Queen. I guess we've heard of Squirrel Queens before. I think this is the first appearance, though, of one.
I think so.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, if this is before Redwall was built, we don't have the same kind of family units we will see in Mossflower later on.
The social structure changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Lady Amber and her squirrels make an appearance. We have Skipper and the otters, although they have their own camp.
Mm-hmm.
And, Abbess Germain. Where have I heard that name before?
She got a promotion between the last book and this one. She was Sister Germain in Redwall.
Yes, she was. That is true.
Huh.
And it's very amusing to me because in the audiobook, Abbess, Germain, and Sarmina are played by the same person.
Oh, jeez.
And she does a very good job of differentiating between... She has two very distinct voices for them, but it's just amusing.
Yeah. I like that when voice actors will sometimes play two different parts that are like complete opposites of each other.
Yup.
But yeah, the Loamhedge mice are here. And included with them is Columbine?
Columbine. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you. Who's not one of the Order, but she's traveling with them anyway. So...
Oh, I thought she was.
Is she not?
She was from Loamhedge.
I know she's from Loamhedge, but she's not a dedicated sister.
Well.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But what makes you say that?
Well, she wasn't called
She's
Sister
not
Columbine.
called Sister. That.
Sorry.
That. Pretty much. No, it's okay.
Are any of them called Sister? I don't think the rest of them are even given names.
Yeah, I
No.
mean, it could be sort of a Redwall situation where there are sisters and brothers, but they're not the only ones. Like, there are just some orphans that they've taken in and other people that just kind of show up there and are welcomed in there.
Perhaps, yes.
That's probably... I mean, they literally left to escape a plague, so...
Yeah.
They basically said, hey, you're still healthy? Okay, you're coming with us.
Yes.
You dying? No? Welcome aboard!
Have fun, dying people. Oh.
We won't!
And, yeah. So they show up basically right when Clump and Martin are escaping.
Yes, indeed.
Is it Amber or Skipper that's like, what are these Pacaninis doing?
That was Amber.
It's like, what?
Yep, cue the Benny Hill theme, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Quorum. Back to Quorum. It's basically everybody who's left Kotir's control. They're still in Mossflower. They still have enough food to...
Somehow.
To gather and, enough to feed everybody. Quite well, actually. And, basically more and more Woodlanders are joining by the day. So...
Yep.
Okay. Literally that very first scene with the Stickle family was basically Earthclaw giving them a map to find Brockall, which is this underground living space underneath a tree. It's not explicitly a fort, but it is kind of a fort, if only by stealth. So.
Pretty convenient that they had this underground fort before they needed, a place to hide from the evil cats.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just interesting as they say it's this ancestral home of badgers, but it's underground. Like, do you think maybe that's their way of kind of creating their own version of Salamandastron and Mossflower?
Maybe.
I mean, if we're talking real-life badger behavior, they do this. They make dens underground, okay.
Or they steal them.
There's that, too. But it also begs the question, since Kotir was built before Verdaga got there, it was just falling apart, and he basically fixed it up. Why wasn't Bell and Barkstripe using the fortress to their advantage? Not worth it, or... I don't know.
Perhaps it was originally Vermin to begin with, because I believe it was in Legend of Luke, where it was mentioned that they lived at St. Ninian's, but then they left for some reason, and it's possible that Kotir was a Vermin place to begin with.
I think.
And
once
it fell to ruin, once it fell to ruin, then possibly the Woodlanders just didn't want to fix it up because of what it symbolized. But that's just speculation.
I think Luke
possibly
mentioned that Verdaga was the one who drove him out as a child.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I gathered too.
Okay.
So, Kotir's been standing we don't know how long, and we don't know who built it or why, but it wasn't being used by the time Verdaga came in. And now it is. So yeah, Quorum is basically it's the resistance movie. They're going to take down the cats, yay! But they don't have a solid plan to do so.
Yes, if only we had a warrior. Oh dear.
Hey, who are you?
They say that a hero can save us.
And, but here's another point of logic, and again, I know it's a kid's book and all. We're outright told Brockall has enough food to feed everybody well into the new year, if this takes place, it starts at winter. And Kotir is rapidly running out of food. Starve him out. I mean,
yeah, no kidding.
Literally wait.
Well, I think they're also afraid that if Saramina gets too desperate, she'll just go on a rampage through the forest and hunt them all and try to hunt them all down.
Which is what she almost ends up doing. Like she's gonna set up traps and stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point, she basically has 3/4 of her forces scouring the forest for Woodlanders, but yeah. Anyway, back to the comedy routine. So yeah, the Quorum gets the not Redwall order, Lumhedge, the heck out of there, as well as Martin and Goff, and they all disappear. But Tarsmini gets Jace. At one point, she encounters Skipper, and my God, the fortitude on this guy.
He just stands there, and he's like, "Yeah, I got your prisoners. No, I ain't returning them."
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it, huh?
Big whoop. Want to fight about it?
So,
yeah, pretty much.
So Gon's maybe the Prince of Mousesies, but I think Skipper's the King of Sass.
Yes.
This is Mossflower cat.
We don't have a hair to insult anyone here, or, Ambrose Spike.
Yes.
So. Skipper basically pulls a Leonidas and is like, come and get him.
Yeah.
And Sarp, and he's like, okay. Hey, what's that javelin? Here, Mr. Ferret. Oh, yep, that'll come out, right? Ashleg, stop looking at me
Walk
like
it
that.
off.
Actually, great. More off-screen paperwork I got to do.
Oh, man.
So yes, her shield ferret takes the javelin and then a few arrows.
Operation Get
Poor
Back the
guy.
Ferrets.
Yeah, she's basically denied to the chance because the Woodlanders, I never got the chance who had the greater numbers here, but the Woodlanders know their forest.
Yeah.
I will give them that.
I think it's the Woodlanders have the smaller numbers, but they have like the knowledge of the area and are really good at like guerrilla tactics. Where Sarmina has troops that are better in a straight up fight, because when they go into like the actual fight against each other, Skipper and Amber obviously see that they're disadvantaged. But when they do their quick attacks and like get out of there, Sarmina ends up on the bad end.
Yes, she does, because she's like, okay, I'm gonna pull up my trump card. Fetch me the Gloomer.
Yes.
And what is the Gloomer, you may ask, if you've never read this book?
It's a big, creepy, disgusting water rat.
Yes.
They must have gotten it from New York.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can believe the Weirret from Manameo a lot easier than I can believe this. We know how big rats are. And yeah, you might have a genetic, a mutation and whatnot. But what? It's a rat that has to be led around with a collar and a leash.
Yes. I don't know, like, are water rats, number A, are water rats a thing? And number B, are they significantly larger than regular rats?
Did you
Water
just say
rats.
number B?
Yes. I did.
So I just looked up water rats. Apparently it was a TV series, but moving on. But
I mean, the closest thing I can think of is muskrats, but those are they look like small beavers.
okay. Actually, it says water rat is a common name for a number of not closely related types of semi-aquatic rodents of superfamily word I can't pronounce.
Okay, so they might not actually be rats. They might be like some sort of larger animal.
Yeah, rodent, like a type of rodent, but not. But that might just be the term they use for it. And they are located all over the place too.
Okay.
Okay. Well, whatever Gloomer is, he, I don't know if he's sentient. Because he pretty much just likes to swim in his little pond and then go track things and to eat them.
And kill things.
And
Yay.
he's blind. And he's blind, apparently.
Doesn't seem to slow him down that much.
No.
No. And, she's like, go get the Gloomer, and so they do, and, oh, wait, Skipper's got his own trump card.
Skipper's like,
Frickin' Pike!
I see your Gloomer, and I raise you a Stormfin.
How did they know about Gloomer beforehand?
There
I
was
don't think they did. I think
they did.
Okay.
There was an otter that got left behind, and they found her and brought her back, and she said she overheard Sarmina mention the Gloomer.
But it sounded like Skipper knew about the Gloomer immediately as soon as he heard the name.
Well, if you could argue that if Gomspin, since we know that Gomspin inside the castle and out a lot, it's fair to say he's overheard enough to glean what's going on. And that's definitely the information he would share with everybody else.
So, I had a thought and I lost it. Oh, there was a kind of a cool foreshadowing thing here because Skipper was like, yeah, my brother and I caught this pike a while ago, and then we meet his brother later on.
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, but the pike.
Oh, yeah, he does. That's true.
So, yes, the pike. Stormfin, as we're told his name is. So, and it's basically Skipper's own trump card. If he's having a bad day and doesn't want Vermin to come into his camp, he can just let this guy out and, instant, what do you call it? I won't say shield, but definitely a good reason to stay out of the water.
Yes.
Dun, dun,
And
dun, 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 dun.
don't give copyright. And I'm
Bloomer,
gonna borrow.
Bloomer
well,
goes into water. Stormfin's in the water. Our Stormfin.
let them fight. Yeah, to borrow from Godzilla, they let them fight, and
this was cool.
It's brutal. Get that? Yeah, there's definitely blood in the water, so to speak.
Yes.
Because Stormfin kind of munches on Gloomer's nice entrails.
Yeah, children's book. Hashtag children's book.
Hey, I turned out
and Gloomer bites into the dorsal fin of Stormfin. And, yeah, who wins, though? Well, here's the thing. Gloomer has to breathe.
Yeah. Breathing. Highly overrated.
And Stormfin is a fish, so, yeah.
You think the water is your friend? You merely adopted it. I was born into it. Molded by it.
What is Ashley saying? I don't know. I can't understand him. Yeah.
I love it too, where Sarmina's like, where they think the Stormfin's gone, and Fortunata's like, "Well, nothing can beat the Gloomer," and then Gloomer gets killed, and Sarmina looks at her and goes, "Nothing can beat the Gloomer, huh?"
That's a good idea, Fortunata. That was a bad idea, Fortunata.
Yeah, glad you thought of it. And say what you want about Sardinia, but this whole time she is not leading from the rear where it's safe. She's actually leading her own troops, even if she has to use one as a shield.
Yeah.
She's definitely more Badrang than Ungat.
Very much so. Ungat didn't really get involved very much.
No.
We all know how that worked out for him.
Yeah.
A nice big hug.
Yes.
But yeah. So yes, basically the Woodlanders laugh and they run away, and Arsenia doesn't really have a lot of options here. She doesn't really know where to charge after them, because her trump card is now dead.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then they hear,
yeah.
And then they hear squirrels giggling in the trees.
Oh, that would annoy the crap out of me.
And yeah, the otters are also laughing at her.
Come on in, the water's
So, yeah.
fine.
It's phone.
Yep. Should we mention Sarmina's apparent phobia of water? She has a phobia.
Yeah, because this comes right out of nowhere.
I do like Fortunata's like, yes, so says the queen of, and then she, I think it was her that bashes into one of the others.
Yeah.
And their heads collide and they both fall on the ground.
Yeah.
That was Fortunata, and I believe it was Clud. Fortunata was trying to earn back her what little bit of respect Sarmina had for her, and she failed.
Yeah.
just a bit.
So says the bonk. Ow, my head.
I'm okay.
It's just my brain.
Wait,
I didn't
medic.
need it
Oh,
anyway.
Wait, I am the medic.
Oh, yep.
Which is a very good thing.
Yeah. Physician, heal thyself.
I'm trying. It won't stop bleeding. And, yeah, this is, again, since it's second in chronological order, Fortunata is the second healer fox we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And, kind of like Sayla before her, she's not expressly, under Sarminia's direct hierarchy, but she is kind of hired help.
She's significantly more loyal than Sella was.
Oh, God. Mike 5 far.
Yeah, like she actually is loyal. We never get the impression that she's going to turn on Sarmina, but she's definitely afraid of her.
You can't have
Yes.
too many cookie cutter characters.
Well, yeah.
No, and that's appreciated. And another thing I else noticed about this is that all the blatant species racism here. Because, well, it doesn't exactly come from Fortuna or even Sarminia. She's queen, and it's good to be the queen, but she doesn't consider herself, like, expressly better than everybody else, like her uncle did. But, her troops are kind of jackasses about it to each other. Like, there's definitely cliques here where they, like, oh, it was a stoat that got eaten by the eagle?
That's fine.
As long as it's not a weasel.
Yeah.
The whole species racism happens in a lot of the other books, but this was, I was kind of actually shocked on how much I was reading about it. So.
Yeah, you get a little in Redwall, the original, too, in Clooney's troops. Like, they were like, oh, a weasel can't be captain, it can only be a rat, and then, stuff like that.
And Clooney never cared.
Nope.
He was the boss, that's all that mattered to him.
Yep.
So.
And we had Badrang, who didn't trust any other stoats.
Yeah.
And like I said, Ungatron was fabulously racist.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was more of he felt he was just better than everything. He was like, well, I'm the best, and the rest of you are, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
Lesser creatures.
Yeah. I will throw you out windows.
Whee!
Clog wasn't expressly speciest, but that didn't ever come up.
And also, out of all the characters we've seen, Clog seemed to care about his crew more than any other villain in this franchise.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any other major bad guys here that we've come across. Vailu Deskar, did he care about other species? I never got the impression he did.
No, he just had, I think his crew was just like a ragtag bunch. And he cared about him. Mm-hmm. He considered himself smarter than everyone else, which technically he actually was smarter than his crew.
His ship was massive, of course, so I don't think he saw the crew the same way as someone with a smaller crew.
Yeah.
He had to care. He probably had his own officers or equivalent that would deal with them, and everything would go passed down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But
yeah,
at least among the other among the common troops here, I was kind of shocked on how much like tribalism there was among species. I'm like, okay, that's unusual.
Also, there were a lot more named rank and file characters in this one, as opposed to... Actually, that happens a lot in the earlier books, is a lot of the rank and file characters get personalities, whereas in with Ungatron, there's not that many under him that we know the names of outside of his captains.
Mm-hmm. Which he promptly murders all of them. Well, not all of them, but
So, next up what happens, we get Party in Brock Hall! Let's all eat! And going back to what we said about everything else is just kind of wildlands, it mentions that Martin had sat at inn tables. I kind of would have liked to have seen some inns in these stories. Or just actual settlements with, structures. Besides, we live underground, or we live in the trees.
Do we ever see an inn? They're mentioned, but...
I don't think so.
This was one of those books that was really forming the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to see that.
Martin. First thing we see of Martin, instead of traveling, he's staying in a comfort inn. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Wrong chain, but good. Yeah, I like it.
And then we get one of my favorite moments of Sarmina yelling at her troops, and she's like, "Do you think they're just gonna invite us in for food, and it says one particularly stupid ferret is like, duh, that'd be nice.
That was actually, I think that was Fortunato was like, do you think the queen will be like, oh, you poor creatures, like...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
One particularly stupid ferret.
It's funny because the wording particularly stupid implies that they're all stupid.
Dumber than the rest.
They all have some degree of stupid. This one just got more stupid.
Yep. And,
somehow dumber than a rock.
Yeah. In other words, the ammo that Skipper and his team uses is smarter than some of Sarmina's soldiers.
So, where did we leave off? So she's basically still wants to capture them. She eventually sends out 3/4 of her fortresses while she keeps the remaining 4th at home.
Yep. And we get a particularly funny moment where Fortunata's like, oh, we have the drop on this one group. They'll never know what hit them. Attack! I'll beat you! Wait, why am I hitting a wooden leg? Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Whoops.
And if Ashleg is our Vermin HR, you know he's going to be like, oh.
He's going to take
You are
particular
so important.
interest in this file.
It's like,
Yeah.
it was a simple mistake. It could have happened to anyone.
Yes, I'll be sure to put that in the report.
Yeah. Throws his broken leg at her.
Yeah.
And then finally in the morning, Clud shows up. He's like, well, what happened to you guys? Nothing. So, why are you so smug? I got prisoners!
Yeah, which begs the question,
You have 2 hedgehog babies.
why weren't we watching the
That's
children
all?
more closely?
Yeah, because let's go back to Corum here.
That's why
After
there's so
Martin and
many
Golf get back,
Yeah.
After Martin and Golf get back, we basically get some backstory from Bella on, hey, about this first rebellion. Yeah, my husband died doing that. Thanks for bringing that up, that horrible memory, Martin.
Yes, and
No, she doesn't.
I
Martin's
assume
like,
my son
"Someone
died
shoot
as well.
this."
Yeah.
But she basically lays it out like, look, we tried to rebel once, it got put down violently, which is possible again, but we really need a better leader here. I'm not... She outright basically says she's not so much the military type, but Martin is. But she says, oh, but yeah, but my dad, Boar the Fighter, he might help.
Yeah.
And you need to go to this totally mountain we've never seen before, if we're following publication order.
Yeah.
And go get some help from them. But I don't know the way. So no one thought to write down a map?
Good luck with that.
I mean, maybe you're trying to keep non-badgers and non-hares out of it, but
Well,
no one wrote a map?
well, we do find there technically is a map. It's just a riddle map.
Yes.
Or I guess the badgers just
Because-
feel it in their bones.
Yes.
The mountain's calling
Yeah,
to me.
something like
No, that's drugs that haven't worn off yet.
Yes.
It could be both.
Just imagine the last badger in there just calls to the next one. It's like, come to Salamandastron. Mountain, are you calling to me? Yeah, sure, whatever works.
And I can imagine someone in Redwall's history later on reading about this and is like, hey, why didn't Matthias ever go to Salamandastron for help? And there's kind of like a slow head turn, like, huh, why didn't he?
Yeah.
And, the obvious reason is Jake's hadn't come up with this yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the first publication book that Salamandastron shows up. And honestly, I don't even know who the Badger Lord would be during the actual Book of Redwall, because the last one we know about before the actual, in chronological order that Redwall happens, is Salamandastron.
Is Earthbite.
But,
Earthwhite, yeah.
yeah, but his niece isn't to be the implied Badger Mother, and she's dead by the time Redwall happens.
Yeah.
So he's probably very dead.
We don't
too.
We actually don't see. Now I'm trying to think about it. We don't see Salamandastron starting Redwall chronologically until the Long Patrol. So, like in Matameo, we don't see it. In Pearls of Lutra, it's just mentioned that. Oh God, what was Orlando went there in between Matameo and Pearls of Lutra, but that's it.
But, I don't even know who the Badger Lord's going to be. So...
Maybe
if
it was...
Matthias had even gone there, it'd been like, hey, why is everything locked up?
Yeah.
Has the mountain been repossessed?
I was going to say, maybe it was one of those periods where, like, in Outcast of Redwall, it's mentioned that sometimes there's not a Badger for a long time.
Mm.
And the hares carry on anyway.
Yeah.
So... we honestly don't know. So, cause isn't Bella alive in Outcast, as I recall?
Yes.
Yes. Very old, but alive.
Right. Who knows? But yeah, getting back to the point. So Bella's like, "Hey, go get my dad from Salamandastron. He's totally not busy right now."
Dad, come and help me!
It's just so
but
funny.
before they can do that, they have some missing hedgehogs to attend to.
Birdie and Cogs.
Yes.
Who are adorable.
I do like them, and I love the fact that throughout it, like, Skipper and Amber, like, actually humor them, and we're like, oh, these are some tough warriors here. You know what? We'll go do the easy part of breaking the prisoners free. You make sure you protect your parents. Like, I like those little moments with them.
Yeah, they come up a lot in this series.
Let's just give us something to do, Wizard. I can fight.
Yeah. I really do like the respect that Jake seems to have for children, and he shows that with the way his adults interact with the children in his books.
Yeah. And then this is probably it's one of the better ways of treating kids, because by the time, is it Moral Fox comes around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got some bad parents in that book.
Oh, yeah.
We'll come to that in another time.
Yes.
Yeah. But, so they send out basically patrols to go get the kids. And that's where Chib comes in.
Yes.
Chib.
And I really enjoy Columbine's interactions with Chib. Like, it shows that she is very intelligent, maybe not quite in the same way as Gon, but I think she can definitely keep up with him intellectually.
Yeah. Gon is more street smart, Columbine is more book smart.
Yeah.
Very much so. And if you're wondering who Chib is, well, we couldn't just have one bird in this. We had to have two.
Well, of course.
Because, and I didn't place him on the heroes here. I definitely made him a neutral when it came to classify the characters.
I can see that, yeah.
Because, he's a paid spy.
Yeah.
But he also will get diabetes from his payment.
I do love when Columbine's like, where he points out, like, well, the eagle's flying around, and she's like, well, any injuries you take from the eagle, we will definitely we'll pay you double. And then later on, they're like, why did you offer to pay him double? And she's like,
could have offered
I'm not going to have to. She's going to eat him in like one gulp.
Even if she offered him 10 times the amount, he wouldn't even leave a smear on Argular's beak.
Yep.
And even Argular has the point to go after Chip at one point. He's just like, what, you're not worth my time.
Yeah. So you can see there's easier prey by the castle. I don't need to go after you.
Yeah.
Oh, look, another one jumping out the window.
Whee!
End my suffering.
Just imagine Argalor's like, man, why couldn't I have hung out by her uncle's fort? Like, he throws people out the window all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Hell, you could have had Brocktree making a deal. Hey, look, you have all you want, just help us pick a few off. Okay?
You can eat buffet.
Woohoo!
But, so they basically paid Chib to go spy on the fort, and to Sarsminia's detriment, she never considers the Robin a threat.
Though,
like
Clud does. Clud notices it, and it sends one of his troops back, and is like, hey, let her know that we've got this strange robin flying around, and then she was like, I don't care.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Scratch that noticed it, and Clud wanted to take the credit.
Right. And he sends
he never got to Kotir. Arguate him.
Yes. Well, the stoat that they sent.
Thicktail. We hardly knew ye for all of 2 pages.
Did I write that one down? I didn't.
Yeah.
I wrote it as an unknown. I didn't realize it was Thicktail.
Yep.
Okay. I'll make that change.
It's like, tell the queen that Clud's been stealing from a robin, or, wait, no, that's not right.
Yes.
So, yeah, so they send Shib to go spy, and they find out that Ferdy and Cogs are relatively unharmed. They're just in jail.
Yeah, which we get the great moment.
Dang, I rolled doubles again in Monopoly. So.
Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Good grief.
Do not collect...
Sarmini even tries to...
I was going to say, do not collect 200 bags of candy chestnuts, which seems to be the currency.
Yeah. So Arminia tries to bribe
don't.
them with food later on.
Yeah.
And it's like, here, you can totally have all your food, and I promise not to harm your parents at all. Why are your claws twisted behind your back? Shut up.
Yeah, these are pretty brave little guys. Like, I don't know, if I was like 7 or 8 and I was in like their situation, I don't know if I would have the courage to be like, no, we're not saying anything.
Yeah.
This is the point where I find Jake's depictions of children kind of strays, especially in these stressful situations. It's unlikely that they'd always be this courageous.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, I'm going to venture out here and say, they know Sarmini is full of it.
Yeah.
And two, they know their parents are going to be looking for him as well. And if Gomf, of all people, can get out, and they know Gomf. You know,
yeah, and they do admire Martin, too.
Yeah, and they are trying to emulate Martin and Gomf. They're like, think of what they would do. Quick, find a sword for Sarmina to break.
Well, if they're emulating Martin, then getting captured is about accurate.
Bashed over the head. Yeah.
Hey, I thought you were supposed to be a great warrior. Shut up.
Only when I see the enemy in front of me. If they get behind me, well, that's the end of that.
But, yeah, to your point, though, I do think later on in the series, the children get a little bit more realistic because usually when children are captured, they don't have a lot of interaction, and they're rescued by adults.
Mm-hmm. Though we do have the moment...
It could be that...
We do have a moment where Sarmina sees them acting tough, and all of a sudden she goes, "Rah!" And they kind of go, "Ah!"
Yeah.
They freak out. So we do have that.
Here's the thing. Is Sarmini wise enough to realize if she kills the kids, this war could actually escalate?
Yeah.
She talks about using kids as hostages later, but...
Well, they point out, I think it's either Ashleg or Fortunata. They're both pretty equally stupid in this moment. They're like, why don't you... Oh, no, it's Clud. It's like, why don't you give him a taste of your claws? And she's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
She is smart enough to know not to, that she shouldn't kill them. And she's like, they're more valuable as hostages.
And, like I said, if she actually starts killing kids, you've given the parents all the more reason to kill you.
Yes.
In the end, though, that might have been more advantageous to Sarmina.
But yeah, she throws him in the dungeon, and Martin's like, "Oh, okay. Now that we know that, I'm gonna go get your dad." Okay.
Yeah.
And Gomf's like, "You're not going alone. Sounds like too much fun."
Yes, and they find...
And who's the third?
Diddy!
Sorry, go ahead.
Yay, Diddy, yeah, I was going to say, and then, yeah, Diddy was like, you're not leaving me behind.
And I'm the fourth guy. Courage, need it. Right.
Yeah, they had to work out. They had to work out that that riddle in order to get directions. Even
Yes.
it's like if the badger doesn't pass the IQ test, they don't qualify to be a badger lawyer. So is that why Bella's husband didn't? Was he not that bright, or?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
I think it was more he was a farmer, not a warrior, so he didn't want to go.
And I think it's funny that they say only male badgers can go questing, but there was specifically a badger in the mountain depicted called Spear Lady Gorse.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
So maybe he just...
And as we're going to see later, badger ladies in that mountain are arguably more dangerous.
Yes.
There's at least two more. There's at least two female badgers later on. I know there's Craiga, and I believe the one in Hyrule Lane is a female.
Rackety Pam.
And then Rusno has a wife later on.
Yes, and there's also a badger lady in Rogue Crew.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of clues to figure out, and we got Jakes likes his riddles, so hey, I'm not knocking it. But it's good thing Boar was able to figure this out when Brocktree left.
Yeah.
So.
It's also different from the first book. Like the first book that, Matthias was constantly seeking for the sword, which was more of like a symbol for them than anything else. Whereas in this one, it's we need to find this big tough badger who can come back and probably snap Sarmina in half and use her to beat the rest of the vermin to death. So let's do that.
Yeah. Pretty much. And they find a riddle map to get to Salamanderstron. Written for Boar, but hey. So I find it interesting that Bella pretty much outright says she remembers Brocktree, like in residence in Brock Hall. Mm-hmm. So, I know the book Lord Brocktree was later, but this ultimately means that not only did Boar have a wife and daughter by the time Brocktree left. So,
yeah. But
yeah. By the time Boar got going, Brocktree was probably starting to age out. Mm-hmm. It also makes Bella really freaking old, because she would have been at least born by the time the Lord Brocktree book happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And enough to remember her grandfather, and then she survives all the way to Outcaster, right?
Yeah.
Indeed. So did we mention that Ferdy and Cogs are in the cells either side of Gingerveer?
Oh, no, we haven't.
We have not.
Yes.
Yes, they are. And it's not Gingerveer, it's the one Tarsminia doesn't want us to mention the name of.
He who must not be named. Oh, wait, what's he doing in this one? Harry Potter joke. My bad.
Yes. Hey, put me back in my own book. What am I doing here? Where's that Potter kid?
Who are you talking about? I can't remember his name.
You know who.
No, I don't.
Mr. Without a Nose.
Yes, Voldemort. Or Tom Riddle. Anyway.
Hey. See, Ferdy and Cogs are on the other side of Gingerveer's cell, and he manages to, right out of Monte Cristo, he manages to pull enough of the plaster away to let them come to his cell. And it's precious.
Yes. I think he's just so starving for company that, these two little kids are just like, aw.
You're not a mean wildcat. Your sister's kind of a jerk, but...
Yeah.
It's...
I even like the fact that... Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead. I interrupted your thought.
I was just noticing when I read that first part when Ferdy popped through, just a little bit of a mix-up with the writing. It says Cogs popped through. He asked. It's like the names were mixed up. Like Cogs asked Gingerveer if he was Cogs. I don't have the book right in front of me right now, but that's what happened, at least in my copy of it.
Oh, interesting typo. He was having some sort of identity crisis.
It's like somehow got through editing.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually surprising because, again, I got to meet Jakes years ago when right before Marvel Fox came out.
Oh.
He was at a book signing here in St. Louis, and when he talked about it, at the time he handwrit all of his books.
Yeah.
And then would give it to his secretary, and she would transcribe them into typed text. So interesting.
That would be a lot of
survived
hand
multiple
cramping.
layers of editorial. You know, that was a concern at the time because I was in Group D, and there was like 6 groups, and there was January where he'd have to stop. He would still meet fans, but he'd have to stop autographing because his hands were hurting.
Yeah.
Okay, I found I found the typo. Actually, it's not even so much of a typo. It's actually they get swapped out for a minute. So it says, "Hello, Ferdy, it's me, Cogs." And he goes, "Sorry, old fellow, it's not Cogs. I'm getting you if you're a friend. Cogs is in the cell on the other side of me." And so then it says, "Ferdy stayed silent, peering through the hole at Gingivier."
Ah.
Yeah, it was a little bit odd.
And then, was it? I was gonna say, I like the fact that Gingivier can still psych his sister out.
Oh yeah.
One point, he just glares at her and just says "murderer," and it freaks her out. The fact that she has to run away.
Yes.
And then another part, he pretends to be crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was very heartwarming when the line, like, even after everything he had been through, it was like the first time he was able to smile since his father was killed.
Yeah.
Like he finally has hope and 2 little friends.
Yeah, just realizing this is a terrible book for mothers.
Yeah.
When it comes to kids.
Yeah.
Because not only is we don't know who their mom is, she's never named or even mentioned. Bella's mom is never named or mentioned. Boar's, the fighter's mom, is named and never mentioned. Wow.
Yep.
And, well, we all know what happened to Martin's mom and Goff's parents.
Goody Stickle is like, "Please let me make it through this book."
Yeah.
Just stay in Brockhall, hon. You'll be fine.
This is one of the few books where we see a quote-unquote bad species actually caring. Gingivier obviously cared about his father.
Mm-hmm.
Enough to cause him to not smile for all those seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And we are outright told there's definite hope from the Woodlanders that, okay, Verdaga's bad, but maybe he'll give the throne to his son instead of his daughter. Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot. So, yeah.
Yep.
So, another point I found interesting. Bella, they find the riddle in Badger script. I don't know, I'm backtracking it here, but this is not the first time we will see, like, an ancient species-specific language, but it kind of struck me as, like, that's a little overkill, isn't it? I know that they're trying to hide the path from those who aren't worthy, but you're a mountain fortress. I think you can handle it.
You can't exactly hide a mountain.
Exactly.
A solo mountain, I might add. It's not part of a range. It's one mountain.
And we also hear about loam script in Matameo, like a special loam hedge language. And then there's common woodland.
And then Moral Fox mentions the ancient squirrel tongue.
Yeah.
So, yes. So yeah, Martin and Gonk, they figure enough, and Denny, excuse me, I didn't want to forget him. They figure enough to basically take off from Brock Collin. And then you have the Three Stooges following.
Yes.
Scratch and the idiots.
Pretty much.
I just thought it was like, I'll report you when we get back. And go and report your mother.
Yes.
I literally was reminded of Three Stooges here, like, them smacking each other or
Hey, chowder head.
doing the... Yeah, pretty much. And, they're actually entertaining to watch them chase Martin, Goff, and Denny, and all the way till they meet the Swans.
Yeah. I like also how Martin, Gonf, and Denny are like, yeah, they're really not a threat. Unless they get near us, which they're probably not going to. They're hilarious. But they first see them,
and then Martin's
they're
like...
cracking up. They're like, this is who they're sending after us? Okay. I'm totally scared.
But yeah, Gonf and Denny almost run right into a pond with a pair of swans.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin stops them, thankfully in time.
Yes.
And again, this reflects real life.
Yeah.
So not only do swans generally mate for life, they are exceedingly protective parents. And Dad and Mom both will come after you if you come close.
Yes.
And not only does Dad come after Scratch, bye. Pretty much bites him in half. We're not given the grisly details except for Gomp's completely insensitive song.
Yes.
That's his way of going, oh, that's a shame.
Yep.
You have fun in the inside of a swan. I'm like, wow.
I won't.
Okay.
Yes. And the tune in the audiobook is very cheerful. He's just like singing along. This one is hilarious.
Oh, wow, then I completely misinterpreted that song. I thought it was like a somber moment.
Oh, no. He's just like a weasel, ferret, and a stoat.
And there's Martin, too. And there's Martin and Denny both face-palming. Like, oh.
Show some respect for the dead. We should have a moment of silence. All right, it's over.
Yeah.
But, yeah, now two Stooges, Splitnose and Blacktooth, do catch up to them and to actually take them by surprise for all of 30
Yes,
seconds.
why are they all three sleeping? You wouldn't think Martin would make a mistake like this, but shouldn't someone be keeping watch?
They thought that all three of them had been killed.
That's true, but...
Yeah, they do.
I don't know.
Yeah, Martin should have been smarter than this.
Just in general.
He really should.
They're in unknown territory, but, well, you know.
Plot.
Plot
yeah,
happens.
The two managed to catch up to them, tie them up at sword point, and then they start fighting over the food.
And kill each other.
To the point that, yeah, they do. I actually had to go back and reread this, but Blacktooth is stabbed and dies, just not explicitly said.
Yeah. And then Splitnose walks backwards into the river and falls into like a mud pit, and bloop, that's the end of him.
Kind of a sinkhole is what I gathered from
that's what it is.
And it's not far enough to do a Wile E. Coyote impression like Slagar. Darn it.
Holds up a sign. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Meep.
But yeah, so and then Martin's like, and they actually throw away a trampled cheese, and I'm like, still food, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're still on their way, and the rest of the quorum is back still trying to rescue the hedgehog twins.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're like, hey, good wife, she's got 2 other kids. Why don't we dress them up like Freddy and Cogs to freak her out?
And we do have that Gingerbeer comes up with the idea of hiding them in his cell that obviously the rest of Kotir isn't going to check, and which they point out like he's putting himself at risk by doing this, and he seems to genuinely want to help the Woodlanders.
But at the same time, what does he have to lose?
This is true. It's like, oh no, I might die and not have a horrible existence alone, starving most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, at the worst, Harmony can do to him is torture him, but she obviously doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much where book 1 ends, and that was long.
Well,
180 pages.
Doesn't they make contact with the mask in book 1, right?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot him. Sorry.
Because I was like, wait, I did not read ahead again. I really tried not to read ahead again.
Oh, no. And
No, Katie, go ahead and take the lead on that.
Okay, so Skipper has a brother who is like a master of disguises, and he can, like, he lost his tail somehow.
Oh God.
Yeah, and so he can, you know, make himself into like a squirrel or a badger or like a ferret, and he decides
apparently
to,
quite convincingly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Which,
oh, go ahead.
given that we're not even given this is a question of scale here, we don't know how well that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And so they decide to get his help so that he can disguise himself as a fox and make contact with Fortunata so that they both can, it's like this very devious and complicated plan so that they can go to the Woodlanders and Fortunata can pretend to be a healer, not knowing that the fox that she's with is working for the Woodlanders.
And everyone knows who she is. It's not even a question.
Yeah, I mean, even Columbine, who's relatively new, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's Fortunata. I totally recognize her."
Somehow.
Yeah.
Huh. Are you Fortunata? No. I don't know what you're talking about.
I am totally a different fox. Did you just put a fake mustache on your face? No, I've always had that.
Before, I believe it was before they even contacted Mask, and right after they let Sarmana see the two disguised hedgehogs, is when they were trying to get more supplies to drop off to Gingivier and Ferdy and Cogs, and Sarmana attacked them.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was almost very bad for the Woodlanders.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Deus Ex Machina, the moles were able to save them, and they went to Mole Deep.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love the idea of.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted all the food that they were having for breakfast. Just side note.
Oh, food porn.
Yes.
Oh
This
my
book
God.
constantly makes me hungry.
It's nice actually to come back to this because there's one major failing of the animated series, and only one.
I wasn't
one.
saying anything.
We can't enjoy the food porn here. Not nearly what we can out of the book.
I got so hungry reading this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like just hearing about like the spring vegetable soup and warm nut bread. I'm like, oh darn it! Now I want food.
Yeah.
Scones and turnovers and what is that other one? The pasties.
Oh, yes.
Leek and onion pasty.
Oh, man, I have not had dinner yet, and I'm starving.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Hungry. I didn't have lunch. I'm friggin' hungry.
Yeah, I'm gonna be making a sandwich.
Oatcake bars.
Yes.
Yeah, the food porn was, oh my God, it was so good to have that back.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, but while we're covering that, we already pretty much commented on most of the series lore here. Let's see, connection to other books. We've mentioned the Brock Tree. We talked about Martin, deliberately lying here, even to his best friend.
Yes.
I love between two gods. You could tell Goff he's not going to tell anyone, man.
I bet there's a fanfic about it somewhere.
It's got to hurt not to, like we said, it's got to hurt not to talk about this, but he has to. And, Martin, you're a terrible liar about your father. Shut up. He didn't do half of this.
That also might just be part of his story. It's part of the story he made up, where that moment where he talks about that there was like one winter where his father was sick and he fought off the sea rats instead. I'm like, definitely no, that didn't happen, but it's probably part of his narrative. Like, well, this is how I learned how to fight and everything.
Yeah. And we get a mention of Sunflash, too. That's never going to come up again. But no. I was curious.
Oh, of course not.
Because in the audiobook, Bella first calls him Sunflash, and then she called him Sunstripe. And so I didn't know if that was a thing that was in the text as well.
I know she calls him
I didn't
Sunflash.
know.
I didn't catch if she called him Sunstripe or not.
So it was like, huh.
Yeah, because Sunstripe doesn't... I thought Sunstripe doesn't come till after the end
Yeah, me too.
of Outcast, when Sunflash basically changes his name because he doesn't want to be seen as a warlord.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the audiobook actress definitely said Sunstripe at one point, and I was like, I wonder if that's a weird editing mistake that they didn't catch.
Huh. And, okay, let's see. All the songs, gone. Just gone.
Granted,
Yep.
I don't find it as intrusive or irritating as, say, all the songs
No.
in Lord Brocktree, or
Yeah.
all the even the songs in Legend of Luke. In that small bit that we read, there were so many in there.
Yeah.
So
No,
with Gomph,
the songs here are to the point.
yeah, Gomph is more charming, and they're only like 4 lines each. Like, it's not like he's doing half a page every single time.
Although there is an interesting villain song here between Fortunata and Matt.
Oh, I thought of that more
AKA
as like
Patchcoat.
yes. I thought of that more as like a chant, not really a song, just like a little.
Yeah, that sounds more like a chant, doesn't it? Oh, how anthropomorphic are they? How anthropomorphic are they? Very.
Especially going by the, I have the book right in front of me, going by the cover in the back of the original, the old paperback version. You have Gomph on the back of it, straight up walking on hind legs, wearing a tunic and cape and hat.
With a feather.
Yep. And Martin on the front with like standing up with a cape and his sword just hanging from his neck, standing straight up.
And I believe the back cover has the villain, right?
Oh, no, Gomph was on the back,
2 feet.
at least on the copy I have.
Oh.
Mine actually doesn't show it, so I mean...
I can remember... I mean, I'm rebuying these as ebooks, so I don't always get the chance to see the
I believe
covers.
that's the old American
But if I recall
version. It's got the big pirate ship on the front, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
This is the copy I've had since, I think I was 12 since I've had this, or 13. So
Yeah, that was the original copy.
all of my original...
Yeah.
Yeah, all of my original books went to my younger cousins, except my signed copy of Salamandastron, so that's why I'm having to rebuy
Oh,
it.
all mine are sitting in my garage. Like I have kept every single one of these since I've gotten them, which is why I had to actually replace my copy of Redwall at one point, because the cover fell off. I was reading it so much.
Yeah.
So these are all very well worn.
Back to the topic at hand. If I recall correctly, I think Mossflower has... One of the editions of Mossflower has a picture of Tarsminia herself on 2 feet in a fabulous purple cape. So... But even the chapter artwork here is pretty explicitly anthropomorphic. Chapter 7 shows us the Hedgehog twins in full armor and clothes and walking in boots.
Yeah.
And strangely, for a bird, Chapter 15 shows Chib wearing kind of like that medieval hood, but no cloak.
We also...
Now, actually...
The French copy, the French Mossflower, is very much anthropomorphic, if you look it up.
I would say the book itself, how much they imply back and forth, it's more vague, but... I mean, we're going this by the artwork here.
It's always up for...
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's always up to interpretation. That's what I feel with the readers.
It might be like whoever does the artwork for it might be doing it maybe just to make it easier for the readers to visualize certain scenes, whereas like the artwork might have been done separately from Jake's process.
Well, yeah, that would be fair to say. But how anthropomorphic are they? Very here.
Yep.
Definitely. Honestly, though, aside from the original book itself, most of everything we've covered here, and we're not counting the cartoon because that's exceedingly anthropomorphic, is it definitely turns the anthropomorphic side. It won't be a. If I remember correctly, it's gonna be a while before something really implies the feral side. Like the graphic novel definitely does, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
All right, does that cover everything? Anyone else have final notes they took down but didn't cover?
I think I got everything.
Yep.
Anyone wonder where the all the supplies are coming from that the Woodlanders have? Do you suppose it's just stuff that they've all gathered up?
Food stocks you're talking, or actual weapons?
Just the food stock.
I assumed it was stored. Yeah, like that they stored it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too.
Alrighty.
It'd be fair to say that they can at least gather some of it from the forest directly.
Yeah.
Now, I remember there was a mention that they said it was hard to fight Kotir because they had trained soldiers, but they seemed to fare pretty well, the squirrels and the otters. But do you guys suppose that's just a case of the good guys being quote-unquote better?
I think I mentioned this earlier. It's in a straightforward fight, Sarmina has the numbers and equipment and everything. We have like that moment where the otters are directly fighting back and are getting killed. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Woodlanders know the area better and they're better with like guerrilla tactics, but they can't get into an outright pitched battle with the Kotir soldiers.
And the squirrels do have the advantage of almost being able to disappear into the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like they're able to fight back, but they don't have the resources or numbers or ability to do an all-out assault to try to drive Sarmina out. And since they don't, and they also don't exactly have a full-on military leader that would provide a strategy to do that, which sounds like why they need Boar. It's not just of his physical abilities, but his knowledge in military tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to bring that up for discussion.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
that's a good point.
Well, I mean, while we're on that same subject, this was almost never seen. Where are the weapons coming from at Kotir? We don't really see them have a forge. It's never mentioned.
Well, I'm curious about is the armor.
Much less
the amount of armor that they
armor.
supposedly have.
That's a good point.
Spears and axes don't take a whole lot of metal. Now, swords and armor, on the other hand, would be a serious investment of skill and materials.
Yeah.
I mean, Salamandastron has a forge. It's kind of its key thing, but it's kind of left open whether it's the Abbey itself later on or even the various vermin hordes out there. Where are they getting their weapons from?
Yeah.
I think a lot of them can be made, like bow and arrow can be made with wood, and like the otter javelins are made of wood, I assume.
Yeah, I think the otter, quote-unquote, javelins are just sharpened sticks at the end of the day. With the Woodlanders, it makes sense because they don't seem to be using that much metal outside of just the arrows.
Well, they could use flint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then I've always wondered we presume Redwall itself can make clothes, but we never see like a tailor in most of these books.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. I guess you could argue that with Kotir, most of that stuff they would have brought with them, like just Verdaga brought and filled it with, but it does beg the question of how are they replenishing this stuff?
You guys may not be as active on the Redwall forum, but I remember several discussions of this actually, and it is a bit ambiguous where all this stuff does come from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the most likely source of iron would be the northern mountains or the western mountains, and possibly Salamandastron has a way of mining the stuff beneath the mountain. However, vermin, who are apparently very well stocked with metal weapons, I don't know how they would get it, unless they have, up in the Northlands, where a lot of vermin come from, a way of mining and producing quantities of iron.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in I believe it was the Highway Lane book where they did have a little bit of a forge in Redwall, but they obviously didn't use it much other than repairing tools and making rings for the wine barrels and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, they would even. I'd argue that's probably must have had a little one even at the time of the original book, because yeah, they would have had to have some sort of metalworking for some of it, if not.
It was also
Anyway.
in the original Redwall, it did say that Clooney's forces were kind of grabbing stuff from the church, actually using those metal spikes from the fence and everything as weapons. So at least that did give an explanation of where some of their weapons came from.
Very improvised.
Yeah.
I believe it has mentioned more than once that they grabbed anything that they could use, like window poles and stuff like that.
Well, by the time we get to the book Salamandra,
Ladles.
we're outright told that not every horde is very good about supplies. So in that particular case, and we're going to get to them, we have two deserters who basically run away because they're basically down to fighting with a rusty knife for each of them. Anyway, that's always an interesting question. So I think that's going to wrap this episode up.
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for coming in. Does anybody have anything they want to promote before we get to our main, hey, where can you find us?
Promote?
If you have your own thing you want to talk about for free advertising.
Oh.
Another store, fanfics.
I have a channel on YouTube where I make blacksmithing videos, and I have actually made the Sword of Martin the Warrior, if anyone is interested in finding out how that could have been made.
Cool.
Yeah. What is your YouTube channel?
Cave of Scars. CAVE of SKARZS.
Nice.
Yep. Katie, do you have anything? Or?
No, not really. I have a new job, but that's not really interesting to other people.
Yay! Yeah, how did the move go?
What?
How did your move go?
I haven't actually moved yet. I'm moving on Friday, so I'm really glad we decided to do it this weekend.
Yeah.
Is this still being recorded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yellow? Okay.
Yes, it is. All right. Lastly, Jeremy, where can they find us?
All right. You can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are also on iTunes and Google Play. We have our own Twitter account. Thank you, Katie, for @ROTPod. And
ROTW.
ROTW Pod. And we also have an email address, rotwpod@gmail.com for feedback. And we are also on the Eulalia subreddit.
And the Redwall Forum.
And the Redwall Forums.
Yes, we are.
You're welcome.
Jeremy. All right. Well, folks, thank you for stopping by. We'll see you in roughly 2 weeks for Book 2.
Hooray.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.